Welcome to Raising Daniels, Breaking Chains, Building Courage, Leaving Legacy. I'm your host, Cherie Linford, faith legacy coach and fellow mom on mission. Here we help Christian moms break free from the past, rise up in courage, and raise sons and daughters who stand strong in truth, ready for the return of Jesus. If you've ever felt weighed down by fear, control, or family patterns that don't reflect God's best, this is your space for healing, equipping, and hope. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical health care. Please the guidance of a medical professional when needed. So take a deep breath, grab your coffee, and let's step forward in faith together. Because, friend, you were born to raise Daniels in a Babylon world. If you're a parent who loves God, wants peace in your home, and deeply desires to raise strong, courageous children in a very confusing world, then this episode, and honestly, this entire upcoming series is for you. Over the next several weeks, we're going to be talking about something that many Christian families have never taught about, and that is neurological dysregulation. Now, I know that might sound like a complicated or clinical phrase, but I promise you, by the time we walk through the series together, it will make so much sense. In fact, many of you listening today may suddenly begin to understand things about your own reactions, your own anxiety, your own patterns, and even things you see happening in your children that never made sense before. You might start realizing that some struggles you thought were purely spiritual or purely emotional actually have deep connections to the nervous system God designed inside of us. And when we understand how God designed our nervous system, we can start cooperating with His design rather than constantly fighting against it. So today's episode is simply the foundation. This is the introduction to the series. Today we're going to talk about what neurological dysregulation actually means, why trauma affects the nervous system, why anxiety and emotional overwhelm often have deeper roots, and why understanding the nervous system is actually incredibly hopeful. Because when you understand the root, you can begin healing the root. Many Christian parents today are carrying a silent burden. They love God. They are trying to raise children with faith. They are trying to hold families together in a culture that seems increasingly chaotic and unstable. But internally, they may be battling things like anxiety, emotional overwhelm, exhaustion, irritability, overthinking, difficulty relaxing, feeling constantly on edge. And sometimes this creates a lot of shame because many parents think something like, if my faith were stronger, I wouldn't feel this way. But here's something I want you to hear clearly today. Struggling with anxiety or emotional overwhelm does not mean your faith is weak. Sometimes what you're experiencing is actually a nervous system that learned survival patterns during difficult seasons of life. Your brain and body learned how to protect you, and those patterns can continue long after the original stress or trauma is gone. Understanding this brings enormous compassion and clarity. Instead of thinking, what's wrong with me? You can start asking, what did my nervous system learn? And that question opens doors to healing. Let's break down the term simply. Neurological dysregulation happens when the nervous system gets stuck in survival mode. Your nervous system has one primary job: to keep you safe. God designed your body to constantly scan your environment for safety or danger. This happens automatically. Your brain and body are always asking questions like, am I safe right now? Is there danger? Do I need to protect myself? When your nervous system senses safety, your body moves into a state called regulation. When you are regulated, you can think clearly, feel calm, connect with others, make wise decisions, respond rather than react. This is the state where healthy relationships grow and spiritual clarity increases. But when the nervous system senses threat, it activates survival responses. These responses include fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. These responses are not bad. They're actually God-given protection systems. They helped humans survive throughout history. But when someone experiences repeated stress, fear, or trauma, especially in childhood, the nervous system can become trained to stay in survival mode. This is neurological dysregulation. The body begins to react as if danger is always near, even when life is relatively safe. Many people hear the word trauma and think of extreme events. But trauma is broader than that. Trauma often simply means overwhelming experiences that the nervous system didn't have the support to process. This can include things like growing up in a home with frequent conflict, emotional neglect, instability in the family, witnessing violence, addiction in the household, bullying, loss or abandonment, chronic stress. When these things happen repeatedly, the nervous system adapts. The brain becomes wired for survival. This can lead to patterns like hypervigilance, constant worry, emotional reactivity, difficulty calming down. The brain is not broken. It is simply doing what it learned to do. It learned to protect. Now here's the hopeful part. God created the brain with something remarkable called neuroplasticity. That means the brain can change. Patterns can be rewired. Nervous systems can learn safety again. This is incredibly important because many people feel stuck in anxiety patterns for years. But when we begin working with the nervous system, calming it, teaching it safety, and renewing the mind with truth, healing becomes possible. And this is where faith and science beautifully meet. The Bible repeatedly shows us that God's desire of his children to experience peace, not just spiritual peace, but deep inner peace. In Isaiah 26 verse 3, you will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you. That phrase, perfect peace, comes from the Hebrew word shalom. Shalom means wholeness, completeness, harmony, restoration. We'll get back to the episode in just a minute. If you're ready to go deeper than this episode, I've placed everything you need in the description below. You'll find my current free resource, information on my 5-day jumpstart, coaching program, and my private Facebook community, YouTube channel, and more. These resources are designed to help Christian moms break cycles, build courage, and leave a godly legacy for their children. Simply check the links below when you're ready. Because we're not just raising children, we're raising Daniels. Now back to the episode. His design was peace. But because we live in a broken world filled with pain, many people's nervous systems learned fear instead of safety. The beautiful thing is that God is a God of restoration. He restores hearts. He renews minds. And yes, He can even calm and heal the nervous system. For those of you who are listening, as parents, this topic matters deeply for your children. Children learn emotional safety from their caregivers. They watch how adults respond to stress. They observe whether the environment feels calm or chaotic. A regulated parent helps create a regulated child. But when parents are living in constant stress or survival mode, children often absorb that emotional climate. This isn't about blame. Most parents were never taught these things. But when a parent begins learning to regulate their own nervous system, something powerful happens. They begin changing the emotional atmosphere of their homes, and that begins breaking generational patterns. That is legacy work. Over the next several episodes in this series, we're going to be exploring different types of topics. My goal in this series is not to just give information. My goal is to help you begin understanding your inner world so that you can cooperate with the healing God wants to bring you. Before our next episode, I want to invite you to try something simple. Just begin noticing your nervous system. Throughout the day, pause and ask yourself, do I feel calm right now? Or do I feel on edge? There is no judgment in this, just awareness. Awareness is always the first step towards healing. You might also take 1 minute each day to sit quietly with God and breathe slowly. And as you breathe in, remind yourself, God is with me. And as you breathe out, say, I can rest in Him. In Psalms 46, verse 10, reminds us, be still and know that I am God. Stillness is one of the ways our nervous systems begin remembering safety. I want you to know something important. You are not alone. So many Christian parents are silently battling anxiety, overwhelm, and emotional exhaustion. But there is hope. When we begin to understand how God designed the brain and the nervous system, we can start working with His design instead of feeling trapped in our patterns. Healing is possible. Peace is possible. And when parents begin healing, families begin healing too. Thank you for joining me today on Raising Daniels, Breaking Chains, Building Courage, Leaving Legacy. If today's conversation spoke to your heart, would you do me a favor? Share this episode with another mom who's ready to trade fear for faith and step into the legacy God's called her to. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with me on my private Facebook group, Raising Daniels Community. Your feedback helps more moms find this message of hope and courage. Remember, friend, you don't have to have a perfect past to raise a powerful future. Keep breaking chains, keep building courage, and keep leaving a legacy that points straight to Jesus. Until next time, stay faithful, stay fierce, and stay focused on eternity.